You know, since we started doing this channel, that is, taking it round the back and violently assaulting it every Friday, so, you know, doing the channel, supposed to be a joke, remember them, never mind. Anyway, I've been stopped in the street recently by a lot of fellow like-minded Doctor Who fans. Right, so this never actually happened, especially given the current business around COVID-19. The streets are empty. But suppose that it did, and I was asked, so, Mr. Whatever your name is, can't remember what it is because it's so dull, but anyway, what's your favourite bit of dialogue in nearly 60 years of Doctor Who? Is it perhaps any single line from the Caves of Androzani, the 12th Doctor speech from the Zygon inversion, or that profound chat-up shit in Rose about feeling the Earth turning? My answer in that situation would almost certainly be no, because all that's just far too obvious and unoriginal. In fact, my favourite ever line in the history of Doctor Who, the best line, just has to be that bit in part 4 of the story we're here to discuss today. The bit where Davros talks about his plans to redesign the Daleks, and Kiston says,
It is so.
"Oh, okay, so it may not be a match for Robert Holmes' unmatched vocabulary on paper, but the delivery, all the way he just says it with such energy and drive. Oh, I get shivers just thinking about the line in that bit. It makes me feel alive. Oh, and you know the best bit of the best part of it. I mean, the actor Leslie Grantham is not only a brilliant actor here, but he did 10 years in jail for murdering a German taxi driver. Oh! That's as good an introduction as any other to this review, right? Well, at least it's original. Shut up.
It is so. It is so. It is so. It is so.
Right, now, given how my last review concerning the Saranga conundrum culminated with my going mad, I wanted my next review to be about something more positive, so here goes. Resurrection of the Daleks, a story from the mid-1980s that has both its defenders and its skeptics. And today I intend to adumbrate two typical instances from separate epistemic interfaces of the spectrum. That is explain why I associate myself with the former camp in support of this story, by addressing the common cries of its detractors. Firstly, there are those who criticise this story for being too violent, who are all too keen to mention the fact that Resurrection of the Daleks features a higher body count than family-friendly feel-good films such as The Terminator, Rambo, and Reservoir Dogs. I would like to make 3 points that show how the violence is, in my view, neither unjustified nor gratuitous, hence rendering this criticism redundant. Number 1. This story is clearly aware of how overly violent it is. Occasionally we get the odd comment lamenting the high number of casualties, i.e. Lytton's rant about the slaughter of valuable specimen just 3 minutes in, or Stein asking in response to a further killing in part 4, did you have to? At the close of this story, we see the consequences of so many deaths, as well as the Doctor's realisation of his moral code towards the Daleks, as Tegan departs from the TARDIS purely because she is sickened by having to watch good people die. You could argue the story should have drawn attention to this important issue more often, but the fact that it at least acknowledges the excessive violence is for me better than it not doing so at all. At least the repercussions are significant. For Christ's sake, a companion abruptly leaves. Number 2. Clearly, the sad loonies who say the story is too violent have not seen Torchwood Children of Earth or Attack of the Cybermen, a story by the same writer from the following year in which someone's fists are crushed to the point of bleeding. Now that is pushing the boundaries in terms of what it's acceptable to be shown to kiddies at 7 p.m. Aside from a couple of brief shots of people being disfigured by poison gas, which could have been far more gory and disturbing than they are here, all it is just people firing guns at each other. They light up, people fall over, and that's it. Number 3. Okay, so it is true that there are quite a few people falling over in this one, but Doctor Who has always had a high body count in many of its stories. The fact it tends to happen more frequently in this story is neither here nor there when it's the sort of death we see all the time in this kind of fiction. If anything, it's to be expected when the Daleks show up. That's probably the main reason why I like this story. It does the Daleks justice. These are ruthless, calculating killing machines. Their prime purpose is to kill everything around them. Of course the body count is inevitably going to be high. The second reason this story gets a lot of flack, that's the stuff they put in cornflakes, is the plot. I will concede that there are a few plot holes in this story, but these mostly consist of background elements that don't impact the main central plot, i.e. handling a gun despite the fact it would be hot, throwing a Dalek out of a window, which looks impressive by the way, but then carrying the remnants back upstairs inexplicably so that we can have the bit where the mutant runs amok and the Doctor nearly shoots a kitten. Stupid though it may sound, like I said, any plot holes do not impact the central story and are also easily explained by the viewer's own theories, which is good for audience participation and the brain and shit. The Daleks' plan makes sense to me. They resurrect their creator in the hope that he can find a cure for a virus that is deadly to the Daleks, while at the same time using pods containing the virus to build up a mystery which lures the ever-curious Doctor into a trap where he can be used to create a duplicate that will then assassinate the Gallifreyan High Council. Yes, it's a bit convoluted, but as far as I know, there's never been anything to suggest that Daleks are not good multitaskers. And besides, I've always thought that convoluted plots are sometimes more effective than simple, straightforward plots, because a complex plot rewards repeat viewings as your brain tries to piece it together, so the story gets better as time goes on, which doesn't happen with a simple story that gives away all its mystery on first viewing and hence gets older quicker. At least Eric Say would try to do something different and new with the Daleks. It can be quite hard to write for the Daleks as their style of dialogue can be restrictive and not allow for much drama, and their preferred method of doing things, i.e. just invading a planet, is somewhat too simplistic when it's already been done at least half a dozen times and wearing a bit thin by this point. Given these limitations, I don't think Saywood did a bad job of writing the Daleks. In fact, although he felt the story didn't pass muster compared to his next Dalek story, Revelation of the Daleks, I'd argue that Revelation, while brimming with ideas and perhaps being better overall, is actually worse as a Dalek story because there the voice effects were fucked up and the Daleks just felt like background material to me, being upstaged by grander concepts and the character of Davros. The same effect doesn't occur here in Resurrection, even though we have the appearances of both Lytton and Davros, because here the Daleks are their own agents, acting independently rather than serving someone else. Yes, Resurrection of the Daleks does feature some terrible overacting from the extras who get exterminated, but the main performances are great overall, be it Peter Davison's authority, Janet Fielden's clearly grown disdain, the stammering Rodney Bewes' inner conflict. Hell, Terry Malloy does a decent Davros impression and has presence. He may shout a bit too much, but I don't mind seeing how Revelation of the Daleks rectified that later on. One gripe I do have is the music. It's a mixed bag. Sometimes Malcolm Clarke's soundtrack is effective, particularly during the brilliantly subversive and driving opening sequence, and it's police brutality that remains as provocative as ever. That discordant discount synth brass the moment Stein reveals he's a Dalek agent, not so much. Resurrection of the Daleks is a story I admire. It may not be Eric Saywood's finest effort, and it requires a certain suspension of disbelief. But then, doesn't all fiction to some extent? Didn't Aristotle describe suspension of disbelief as one of the crucial principles of theatre? Alright, I admit I am just referencing Aristotle because it makes me sound clever, but the point's a valid one. Overall, I can overlook Resurrection's faults because it's how a Dalek story should be. It's full of shoot-them-up action, but it's also more than that at the same time, recognising its reliance on violence and using it to build character. There could be more character development, which the story doesn't leave much room for, but its different approach to telling a Dalek story allows it to stand out from other offerings. Superficially, it's certainly a fun ride, but there's a little bit more going on under the surface than I feel some give it credit for. So I don't often do ratings out of 10, but if I did, I'd give Resurrection of the Daleks around about a 7 out of 10. But these are just my personal individual thoughts, and you may disagree. Feel free to write down your differing thoughts in the comment box, because remember folks, we are all individuals.
Yes, we're all individuals. You're all different. Yes, we are all different. I'm not.
If by any chance you can't be asked to do that, then please at least muster up the energy and enthusiasm to like and share this video and subscribe to Cynical Who on YouTube, Twitter and DeviantArt. That's all I have to say for now, so see you next time. Bye.